back, guys, to episode 2 of Classroom Careers. My name is Zoya. I'm the Senior Executive Recruitment Partner here at Hoop Education. I have been doing education recruitment now for nearly 5 years. As it stands, I'm currently managing additional learning needs settings across South East Wales.
Hi, I'm Sam and I'm the Primary Recruitment Consultant with Hoop Education. Previously to that, I was an alternative education mentor with LMP for 2 years. We worked with students who were having trouble in mainstream school. They'd been expelled or were about to be expelled pretty much, and it was about getting them back into mainstream education.
The whole purpose of episode 2 is to equip and prepare our current supply members of staff, whether that be teaching assistants or teachers, and future individuals that are looking to get into supply teaching. So with myself, I personally haven't worked in a school. However, my colleague Sam has worked in a school. Sam, what advice would you give current supply staff and future individuals that are looking to register with supply?
I think the main thing would be to get there early, familiarise yourself with these settings, meet some of the staff. I think it makes it so much easier when you have your bearings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, the first day's tough because you've got no idea of what you're getting in for. But what I would say is when you meet the head or the supply cohort or some of the other teachers, even some of the students that you're going to be working with, just makes you so much more confident in the morning, and you're not dreading the day. Then you've got an idea of what to expect, I think. So that would be the main thing for me.
Yeah, I think every school is different as well. And I think for me personally, although I haven't worked in a school, when I do go out on school visits, I find it's easier for me to sort of perhaps the day before drive to the school just to familiarise myself in terms of little things such as parking. I think knowing that you have got a parking space ready, knowing the streets around, will make you a lot more calmer before your booking. I think the worst thing that you can do is go into your booking feeling stressed. I think the thought is always worse.
Yeah, like you said, I think you start to panic and over the small things like parking and stuff like that. When if you're there for a long time, you look back and think, what was the problem with that? But because it's your first day, you want to focus on the main things like teaching, supporting students, when instead you may be worrying about like meeting new people and things like that, when your mind should be 100%. On other things,
Yeah, definitely. And I think good thing about all of our schools, I can hand on heart say that every single school that we work with at the moment, they are so supportive.
Yeah.
And I think I completely understand being completely new to supply, I'd be feeling the exact same. Or working in different schools, you may still have that sort of sense of stress. But I think when you go into the school and then meeting all the staff around you, even though you are a supply member of staff, you should always still be considered as an internal member of staff.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing about all of our schools, is that they will always consider you to be an internal member of staff, and any support that is needed, they will always be there as a helping hand.
Yeah, massively. I think one of the main things is you're there because, you deserve to be there and you've earned to be there.
Definitely.
That's what you want to do. And you can do it, and you're in the school because you've got experience, you've got qualifications and stuff. So just about being confident as well, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, oh my God, 100%. Confidence is definitely key. I think especially being a teacher as well, I think, one thing that we will always try to do for a teacher prior to starting is perhaps maybe there's already lesson plans in place for you.
Yeah.
I think familiarising yourself with the work prior to going into a school, at least then you can go in knowing what topics are going to be covered and knowing what sort of classes. So little things such as age ranges. I think for me, I will always try to gather as much information. So in terms of, the key stage, perhaps if you're doing a one-to-one, whether that be working with a pupil that has autism, just to get as much information for our staff as possible prior to penciling them in. I think another thing as well is to be flexible. Mm-hmm. So supply is a really, really good way. So for example, if you are looking to sort of carry out PGCE, I think supply is a really good way of getting your foot in the door with so many different schools. It's a good way of building on your sort of confidence. I know we touched on confidence earlier on. It's a really good way to register with supply, to familiarise with yourself with a lot of key stages, lessons as well, and subjects, depending on what sort of subject specialism you want to go into. As a supply teaching assistant or a teacher, registering with supply is so flexible in the sense that we are able to sort of get you work as and when you want it.
And no school's the same either. I think that's one of the main things. Like even different classrooms in the same school are all different. So I think if you take up supply, you get to learn, what you're good at, what schools you prefer and sort of things like that, what students you work well with. But yeah, it's just growing about that reputation. One of the main things as well is whilst you have to be flexible, it's very, very important, and I learned this the hard way, is to manage classroom behaviour. I've worked with students who've come from sort of deprived backgrounds and really, really struggling in education. And obviously sometimes they had problematic behaviour, but you need to understand that, learn where it's coming from and adapt yourself in a way to manage it, because obviously one student can affect the classroom. What I will say as well is schools will always have support. They should be staffed to high levels and high quality staff there, that if you do need a hand with problematic students or maybe the classroom's a little bit tough on that one day, you do have support there and available.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it touches back to the fact that, whilst you may be put into a challenging class, the support will always be there with schools. For example, if you're going as a teaching assistant, there will always be a teacher present.
Mm-hmm.
There will also be other support staff in the school. If you feel as though, there may be one difficult pupil in the class and you feel as though you haven't got the relevant training in order to sort of manage their behaviour, there will always be additional support available. I think with my sort of settings that I deal with in particular, additional learning needs settings, you do tend to get a bit more challenging classes. However, it's all character building, and it equips you for the next placement and the next challenging class that you're placed in as well.
Yeah, I think schools will go through procedures with you as well. You'll have an awareness of what needs to be done for certain behaviours and things like that. Obviously, you build that experience too, so you start to recognise situations a lot quicker, I think, when you build experience, which you can get with 100%. Supply.
But this all goes towards being a supply teaching assistant, where you haven't accepted a permanent placement, you have got the opportunity to work in so many different classes and build on all different types of experiences, whether that be working in challenging classrooms, whether that be, working in classes that may have a small remote group of like 5 pupils and it's more sort of one-to-one or group-based work. The good thing about supply is that you have got that opportunity to work in as many different classes as possible, really.
Yeah.
A good thing about working it as a supply teaching assistant or a teacher is that if you do make a good first impression, you follow sort of all basic standard processes in which we would mention to our staff. So managing classroom behaviours, it goes hand in hand towards building positive relationships as well. If you do make a good first impression in a school is more than likely to book you on a long-term basis. It then fosters positive relationships with both students and staff. If you are leading one class and you do it successfully, you then form a bond and a relationships with all the students in there, and therefore a school is then, for consistency purposes and continuity, they're more than likely to book you on a long-term basis.
Yeah, I think the number of staff that we've had who've attended a short-term placement and ended up being kept on, even in later down the line where they come back to you and ask for, that certain member of staff, because when they had them previously, they were so good.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I think the key thing was, like you said, building positive relationships, mostly with students. If you get good feedback from students, it serves you so well in the future. We work with a lot of schools that are closely knit together as well, like cluster schools and things like that. So, if you can build that relationship with one school, that translates into so many other schools.
Yeah, 100%. And, a friendly and approachable demeanour will always make it more easier for students to warm to you and to feel comfortable with you. That's so relevant with my schools, additional learning needs settings, because consistency for the pupils is absolutely imperative. And what I do say to my staff is that prior to going into a book, and just be yourself, but always be friendly and approachable, because students are more likely to come out of their shell. Where you may be really stressed and feeling a bit intimidated on the day, it's probably even more so for pupils and students in that school. It can throw them off a little bit having a supply member of staff, but I think having that approachable response towards them is more likely, it's easier for them to sort of do their own work as well, because they then feel familiar with their supply teacher or teaching assistant.
Yeah. I think one thing I used to do as well, put your own stamp on things. We used to do something back in when I used to work in My State Comp. We used to do tea and toast mornings.
Oh, fab,
so when we do like sports tournaments the day before, if someone lost, or maybe they had a bad day and they did something wrong, you know, instead of going all out with punishment and stuff, they would just be on tea and toast duty in the morning and stuff like that. So even though it is kind of like a punishment, I suppose, it's a bit of fun in a way where they come in the next day and they've got to make tea and toast for all the students and stuff, and everyone's sort of having a laugh, and it just starts the day off then on the right foot, whereas you know, the previous day it might have been gone sideways a bit more.
But this is it though, isn't it? I feel like with supply work, you know, it's just best not to overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, it is just work. And we always say to our staff that just be yourself. And you, like you said, put your own stamp on things. And, you know, what the schools are looking for is an individual to come in. And whilst you are a supply member of staff, it's just bringing fresh ideas to the school. Even though you are a supply member of staff, that's not to say that they're not welcoming in new ideas. So it could be something as minuscule as, you know, tea and toast mornings. Like you said, I love that idea. It's fab. But it's always welcomed, and again it goes towards the recognition and building positive relationships with the school. A school is more than likely to welcome you into other schools and recommend you to different schools if you do bring in new ideas and put your own stamp on everything. So one thing we would always relay to our staff prior to a booking would be that they will need to be organised. So organisation can highlight factors such as, you know, in the mornings, are you getting public transport? If so, what are the bus times? A school starts at 8:30, therefore you will need to plan your journey ahead in order to make a good impression and not arrive to school later. Organisation can also mean, you know, keeping track of lesson plans. If you're a supply teacher and you are covering things such as PPA, it might be that you're covering different classes within a week. A school may provide you with all different lesson plans to cater towards different lessons. And it's important to have these, you know, even though we are a supply agency and we are there to support you, we're not physically in the schools with you every single day, which is why it would then be up to the teacher or teaching assistant to keep track and have all of their lesson plans in order.
Yeah, I think just 5-10 minutes the day before can make such a massive difference.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah, of course.
You know, like you said, you mentioned about public transport and things like that. That doesn't always go as planned. So what we always say to our supply staff is, you know, have good communication as well, because schools are understanding. So if something does go wrong, if the bus is late or if your car's broke down like mine did this morning, you know, you can just sort of text the school. You know, it goes a long way. But just researching the lesson plan the day before, like you said, 5-10 minutes, it just puts you at ease as well. You haven't got to go in there and you're sort of stressing about because you don't know what to do, because you haven't sort of thought prior to it, I think. You know, honestly, the difference it can make to a day, I found, because I was quite bad for it, to be honest. I used to just sort of, some days I'd wing it and then I'd regret winging it almost instantly.
And, you know, that's fine as well. At the end of the day, you are only human and there will be room for human error. But I think that's what we take pride in doing as well as a supply agency. You know, if one of my staff members says to me, oh, look, I am organised, but I could be more organised. How can I do this? We are only on the other end of the phone. We can give you then organisation tips. And it can be something as simple as Sam said, you know, 5 or 10 minutes research the day before into a school that you've never been to before can make a whole lot of difference to your day. And that then takes us on to, you know, seeking feedback as well. Like I said, we're not into the schools physically, and whilst we can ask, for example, deputy heads or subject leaders, how can this staff member improve? You know, we would then expect you to also seek and ask for feedback in the school, because this will then equip you for the next role that you then take on.
Yeah, and it could be something minor, like you said, with maybe the lesson plan the next day. They might have an idea they can put to you to make things easier and stuff like that. So I always ask my staff to get feedback. Like you said, we'll speak to school staff as well for feedback on their end.
Definitely, yeah.
But like you said, if you liaise with staff there, they might have so many ideas that we wouldn't know of. Do you know what I mean?
It's a way of growth though as well, especially being, you know, we offer an NQT scheme here at Hoop, whereby NQTs can carry out their NQT year with ourselves. And, you know, I've had NQTs go into schools, and where they're new to their roles, you know, I always ask them to try and seek as much feedback as possible. Being an NQT, you're constantly learning, and that goes hand in hand with so many different staff members as well. You may be a teaching assistant carrying out your, let's say, level 3, and you want to know ways as to how you can grow onto becoming a better teaching assistant. And I think it's just understanding what went well and always being open to learning, and seeking areas for improvement which will contribute to your growth as a teaching assistant or teacher.
I think it helps you gain that confidence. I know we spoke about confidence earlier as well, but you go into the next day, if you are on a long term, or they do want to keep you the next day, you're much more positive then the next day, because you've had that feedback, or maybe you've had that bit of constructive criticism, which will make the next day so much easier.
Oh, absolutely. And that's just it. I always say to my staff, always be open to constructive criticism. I know it may not be what you want to hear at the time, but in order to make you a better teaching assistant or teacher, and in order for you to grow, you need to hear that sometimes. And a school is not necessarily saying it to you because you're bad. It's simply because they want you to improve and they see areas for improvement, which I think is absolutely vital in your journey as a school staff member.
Yeah, and every day is so different as well.
Oh yes.
I think you don't know what you're going to get really, but a lot of the time it just opens you up to new challenges and things like that.
Definitely.
And it just builds your experience, builds your confidence. It all comes together, I think, into one big package where you become the TA you sort of want to be, or the teacher that you want to be in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think the main point to get out of this episode is that you just need to stay positive and have fun.
Yeah.
As a teaching assistant or a teacher, you are contributing to a pupil's learning and development. And if you're not going to be positive throughout the whole education experience, then there's not going to be an outcome that you wanted. It's not going to be an outcome for the pupil. So I think it's just embracing the variety and be open to new challenges as you contribute to the learning environment in different classrooms and different school settings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. We really hope that this episode has been valuable to any new teacher or teaching assistant looking for supply work. In the future, if you are ever looking for supply work and you need advice, please do not hesitate to contact us, as we are always here to help.
If you are thinking about getting into supply, I would highly recommend it. So just give it a go. And if you'd like to register with Hoop Education, you can give us a call. The number is 02921 303 111, and we'd love to hear from you.